Tom stood at the landing platform, his small bag in one hand and a nervous feeling in his chest. The sky above was a deep red, and the sun shone over the strange land of Mars. It was his first time off Earth, and everything felt different. The air, the silence, the way people moved around him. He had joined the Unity program, a new peace mission where humans and aliens lived together in shared homes. To learn from one another, people said it was the future, and Tom wanted to be part of it. He was chosen among thousands of people because of his calm nature and clean record. A tall man in a black suit gave Tom a small device. This is your house key. You'll be living in Zone 4, House 12. Your roommate has already arrived. Roommate? Tom asked. Is he? Are they? She's a Valari, the man said. Her name is Nira. Good luck. Tom thanked him and walked toward the transport pod as it flew quietly through the Mars colony. He looked outside. Small houses were built in round shapes, with glass roofs and green gardens. Solar lights blinked softly. Alien and human kids played together in open areas. It looked peaceful, but still, Tom felt nervous. He reached House 12. It was made of smooth metal and soft stone. A small tree stood near the entrance. He took a deep breath and knocked, even though he had the key. The door slid open. Inside, it was quiet. The air was fresh, and there was a light scent of flowers. The house was clean, with 2 rooms, a shared kitchen, and a water chamber. In the middle of the room stood Nira. She was tall, almost as tall as the door. Her skin was pale with a soft shimmer, like moonlight. Her eyes were large and silver, and her long hair moved gently, even without wind. She wore a simple white robe with golden lines. Tom smiled awkwardly. Hi, I'm Tom. Nira looked at him for a moment. Then she bowed her head slightly. Tom, she said, her voice calm and slow. Welcome. They stood in silence for a few seconds. Tom wasn't sure what to say. He looked around the room again. I guess we're roommates now, he said with a nervous laugh. Nira blinked slowly. Yes. Tom went to his room and placed his bag down. The room was nice, simple, with a bed, a desk, and a screen on the wall. Outside the window, he could see the garden and the sky. Later that evening, he made some tea and offered a cup to Nira. She looked at it, took it gently, and sat across from him. They didn't talk much, but Tom noticed something strange when she touched the cup. The tea inside became warmer. Maybe it's just her body temperature, he thought. The next morning, Tom walked into the garden. He saw Nira standing among the plants. She wasn't moving. Her eyes were closed, and her hands were at her sides. Flowers around her were blooming bright blue, red, and yellow. Some of the flowers weren't even native to Mars. Tom stared in surprise. He wanted to ask, but Nira turned to him and said gently, Good morning. Morning, he replied. Still looking at the plants, she walked back inside, and the flowers slowly stopped moving. Later that day, Tom tried to fix his tablet. It had been acting strange since the journey. He opened it up and checked the wires. Nothing worked. He sighed and placed it on the table. When Nira passed by, she gently touched the edge of the device. Suddenly, it turned on. The screen lit up, fully charged. Tom stared. What did he do? Nira looked at him. It needed rest. She said. He didn't understand what that meant, but he didn't ask more. Maybe all Valari had this ability. In the following days, Tom started writing a journal. He wanted to remember everything. He wrote about the flowers, the tablet, and the way Nira moved lightly, almost like she floated. She spoke little, but when she did, her words felt like calm music. One night, Tom was cooking and accidentally burned his finger. He let out a small cry. Nira walked over and gently took his hand. Her fingers were cool, and within seconds, the pain was gone. It's okay now, she said softly. Tom looked at his finger. The redness had faded. Thank you, he whispered. She nodded and went back to her room. Tom began to notice more things. Lights in the house stayed on longer when she was near. The air felt cleaner. Even his sleep improved. At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks, but soon, he knew something was different. One afternoon, he found her in the garden again. This time, she was humming a soft tune. Butterflies, real butterflies, flew around her. Tom knew butterflies didn't live on Mars. Where did they come from? He walked closer and asked, "Nira, how do you do these things?" She looked at him, her eyes full of light. "I just remember what the world used to be." Her answer made no sense to him, but he didn't press her. Maybe, in time, she would explain as the days passed. Tom felt lucky. He had expected an alien roommate to be cold or difficult. Instead, Nira was kind, gentle, and quiet. She didn't judge, didn't ask too many questions, and never got angry. But still, something inside him whispered, she's hiding something. One evening, he walked past the water chamber and paused. Light was shining from under the door, soft, blue and white, like starlight on water. He heard a soft sound, like waves and voices mixed together. He stood there, frozen. Then the light stopped. Silence returned. Tom stepped back. His heart beat faster. He went to his room and wrote in his journal, "She is kind. She is calm. But there is something about her, something powerful and hidden. I want to understand, but I don't want to break the peace between us. I will wait. I will watch. Maybe one day she will trust me enough to tell me." He looked out the window. Nira stood in the garden again, under the stars. She raised her hand, and a small light floated above her fingers. Tom watched quietly, and for the first time, he wondered not what she was but who she truly was. Tom slowly began to adjust to life on Mars. The colony was peaceful. The days were longer than on Earth, and the red sky had a quiet beauty. His shared home with Nira felt safe, almost like a dream. But deep down, he knew something was different about her, something she wasn't telling him. Nira stayed quiet most of the time. She rarely spoke unless Tom asked a question. Even then, her answers were soft and short. She spent a lot of time alone in her room or in the garden. Sometimes she would just sit under the small tree and stare at the sky for hours. Tom respected her silence, but his curiosity grew every day. He kept writing in his journal. He wrote about the way Nira's footsteps never made a sound. He wrote about how broken things in the house would suddenly start working again after she walked by. He wrote about the soft glow that followed her at night. One morning, Tom walked into the kitchen and saw a glass cup cracked in half on the table. He was about to throw it away when Nira entered the room. She touched the cup gently. A second later, the crack disappeared. Tom blinked in surprise. "How did you do that?" Nira looked at him. "The glass wanted to stay whole." Tom tried to understand, but the words confused him. How could glass want something? Later that day, Tom watched her from his room window. She stood in the garden, facing the sun. Her arms were open. Round her, small glowing bugs flew in circles. The plants reached toward her, as if they knew her. Tom whispered to himself, "She's not just an alien. She's something else." That night, after dinner, Tom decided to talk to her more. They sat at the table with tea again. He took a deep breath. "Where are you really from, Nira?" She looked at her tea, then at him. "Veller. My home star. Is it far? Very far. Is everyone like you there?" She was silent for a few seconds. "No, I am different." Tom leaned forward. "Different how?" Nira looked out the window. "Some of us carry the old light. It is inside. It listens. It heals. It remembers." Tom didn't understand, but he nodded slowly. "So, the light helps you fix things?" Nira touched her chest gently. "The light is not just to fix. It is to feel, to care, to grow." Tom wrote those words down in his mind. He had never heard anyone speak like that. In the days that followed, he watched her more carefully. He didn't spy, but he tried to learn from her actions. He saw how she never wasted food, always touched the plants with care, and even helped a bird with a broken wing. She didn't do it with tools, just her hands, her voice, and a soft glow from her palms. One evening, Tom found Nira outside sitting in the grass. The stars above were brighter that night. "May I sit here?" Tom asked. She nodded, and he sat beside her. "I don't understand you, Nira, but I know you're kind." She didn't speak at first, then said, Kindness is the only power we were told to keep. Tom looked at her. We're told. Nira's silver eyes met his. My people were once hunted. Tom's heart jumped. Why? Because we could grow things. Because we healed. Because we were peaceful. That doesn't make sense, Tom said. Why would someone hunt people for being peaceful? Nira looked up at the sky. Some fear what they do not understand. Some want power over light. Tom stayed silent. He felt sad for her. Sad for a race that had to hide such gifts. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words wouldn't come. The next morning, Tom noticed something strange. A small tree outside the house had been dead since he arrived. Its branches were dry, and no leaves had grown on it. But now, it had green buds. He went outside and touched the bark. It was warm. He turned around and saw Nira watching him from the doorway. You did this, didn't you? He asked. She didn't reply. Later that day, Tom had an idea. He brought out a small pot with dry soil. Can you try to grow something? Here, just a flower. Nira walked over and placed her hand over the soil. She closed her eyes. Nothing happened at first. Then, slowly, a green stem pushed through the dirt. A blue flower opened its petals. Tom gasped. That's amazing. Nira smiled softly. It listens when you ask with care. Tom stared at the flower. Your people are incredible. Nira sat down beside him. We were not always safe. Many of us stopped using the light. They became quiet. They forgot who they were. Why didn't you? I believed someone would understand one day. Tom didn't know what to say. He felt honored. He felt trusted. That night, he wrote in his journal again. She's not just my roommate. She is a teacher, a mystery, a light in this new world. I don't know everything about her, but I want to protect her. Whatever happens next, I must earn her trust. Days passed, and Tom continued learning from her. Little by little, she taught him how to listen to the wind, how to place his hand on the soil and feel if it was tired, and how to close his eyes and breathe like the stars were inside his lungs. One night, a small storm came. The wind blew hard, and the power went out. Tom panicked at first, but Nira calmly stepped outside. She raised both her hands, and the air became still. The power returned. The wind stopped. Tom watched from the door. She turned and gave him a small nod. He nodded back. In that moment, Tom knew Nira was not hiding from him anymore. She was showing him pieces of herself. He still didn't know the full truth. But he knew one thing. Nira was more than just an alien. She was part of something old, something forgotten, and something beautiful. Tom woke up to a soft hum filling the house. It was gentle, almost like music made from water and light. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. The sound was coming from the bathing chamber, the room built for water cleaning and relaxation. It was made for both human and alien use, with different systems depending on species. He checked the time. It was very early, just past sunrise. The house was quiet except for the hum. Curious, Tom stepped out of his room and walked down the short hallway. As he got closer to the bathing room, he saw something strange. A soft blue glow was shining from under the door. The air near the door felt fresh, like spring wind, even though the colony usually had dry air. Tom stood still. The sound from inside the room wasn't just water. There were voices, many voices, but they didn't sound like people speaking. They sounded like wind in the trees, like deep rivers, like stars humming in space. He took a step back, unsure of what he should do. A few minutes later, the sound stopped, the light faded, the door opened quietly, and Nira stepped out. Her robe was shining slightly, wet but clean. Her long silver hair flowed gently behind her, and her eyes looked brighter than usual. She saw Tom standing there. She didn't look surprised. You were awake early, she said softly. Tom nodded, not sure what to say. I heard something. She tilted her head. The water sings. It remembers. Tom blinked. Remembers? Nira didn't answer. She simply walked past him and returned to her room, her footsteps light and silent. Tom stood in the hallway for a long time. Later that day, he checked the bathing room. Everything was cleaner than before. The air still held that soft, fresh scent, like new leaves and rain. The glass walls were shining, and the water pool inside looked deeper, almost like a piece of the ocean had been placed there. He touched the edge of the pool. The water rippled gently under his fingers, though he had not moved much that evening. Tom sat in the garden and wrote in his journal. There's something in that room. Some kind of memory, maybe, or energy. When Nira goes in, the place changes. It sings. The air changes. Even time feels slower. He looked up. The stars were starting to appear in the red sky. Nira walked into the garden and sat near him. She didn't say anything, but her calm presence filled the space with quiet peace. Tom took a deep breath. Nira, what happens in the bathing room? She looked at him. Would you believe me if I told you? I want to, he said. She smiled gently. Water on my world is not just for washing. It is for remembering. Our bodies carry light, but light needs memory to stay pure. We enter the water to remember who we are. Tom thought about that. You remember through water. Yes. The water holds the voices of our ancestors, our trees, our skies. It sings to us when we are tired or lost. Tom nodded slowly. That's why you look different this morning. Nira looked at her hands. Yes. The light inside me was growing quiet. I needed to hear the song again. Tom leaned forward. Can anyone hear it? Could I? Nira looked at him for a long moment. Maybe, if your heart is open. Tom wanted to ask more, but he didn't want to push too hard. He was learning that Nira gave answers like seeds they had to grow slowly, over time. The next morning, Tom noticed that even the house plants looked stronger. The small tree outside had opened its first flower. He smiled. Nira had not touched it in days, but her presence had helped it bloom. That afternoon, while Nira was resting, Tom looked through the colony database. He searched for anything about the Velari, her people. There wasn't much. Most of the information was simple, peaceful, plant-based diet, calm behavior, love for nature. But there were rumors, strange stories about Velari who could control light, heal the sick, and speak to animals. Many reports were removed or hidden. Tom frowned. Why hide good things? He heard the soft sound of the front door and quickly closed the screen. Nira entered with a small basket of strange round fruits. These are from the outer gardens. She said, Thank you, Tom replied, trying one. It was sweet and cool, like a mix of apple and melon. As they sat together, Tom asked, Why do people fear your kind? Nira looked out the window. Because we carry what they have forgotten. Tom waited. We remember the old ways. We listen to the earth. We care for what lives. Some call this weakness. Others see it as danger. But it's not dangerous, Tom said. No, she replied softly, only when it is misunderstood. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. His mind kept going back to the bathing room, the light, the voices, the fresh air. He quietly left his room and stood outside the door. He placed his palm on the metal. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he thought he heard something very faint, a sound like wind blowing across a mountain, like deep voices far away. He pulled his hand back, heart beating faster. He didn't go inside. Instead, he wrote in his journal again. She says the water remembers, that it sings to her. I believe her. I think there's more to the Velari than anyone knows. And maybe that's why they are feared. I don't fear her. I want to learn more. I want to understand the light. The next day, Nira handed him a small stone. For you, she said. Tom looked at it. It was smooth and blue, with tiny stars inside. What is it? A memory stone. From my people. It holds one thought only. When you need to feel peace, hold it. Tom kept it in his pocket. From that moment, something changed between them. Nira began to speak more. She asked about Earth, about trees, animals, mountains, oceans. She seemed sad when Tom spoke of pollution and loss. We can help, she said one day, but only if you allow us. Tom didn't fully understand what she meant, but he wanted to, because now, he didn't just see Nira as a roommate. He saw her as a bridge between what was, what is, and what could be. Tom began to feel something new every day. Wonder. It was like living with a secret star, one that shined quietly but touched everything with beauty. Nira's presence was soft, yet the world around her kept changing in gentle ways. Flowers bloomed where none had before. Broken things healed. The air smelled like early spring after a long winter. Still, she said little about herself, and that made Tom more curious. One evening, after dinner, Tom walked into the garden alone. He stood by the small tree that had once been dry and lifeless. Now, it was full of green leaves and tiny blue flowers. He looked at it with wide eyes. This wasn't possible 2 weeks ago, he whispered. Tom pulled a small device from his pocket, a tiny camera the size of a button. He had taken it from the colony lab, where he worked part-time as a technician. It was made to record wildlife quietly without harming the environment. I just want to understand, he said to himself. He hid the camera between two rocks near the garden's edge, pointing it toward the center of the yard. He made sure it was set to activate only when it saw movement. That night, he couldn't sleep. The next morning, when Nira left for the outer gardens, Tom quietly picked up the camera. He took it to his room and connected it to his tablet. He watched the footage. At first, there was nothing, just still air and quiet night. Then, the garden lights dimmed, and Nira walked into view. She stood in the center, arms by her side, eyes closed. The flowers around her turned toward her, like they were listening. A moment later, soft light began to rise from her body. It wasn't just her skin glowing, it was something from inside her. The light was warm, calm, and moved like waves. It touched the plants, the air, and even the soil. Then, something truly strange happened. Nira raised one hand. A small tree, half dead, shook and then began to grow. Leaves returned, its color deepened, and fruit appeared. Tom leaned closer to the screen, stunned. And then, butterflies appeared. Blue and white butterflies, floating around her like snowflakes. They danced in the air and then faded into soft sparks. Nira opened her eyes, smiled gently at the flowers, and walked away. The recording ended. Tom sat still for a long time. He had seen something beautiful, something beyond science. But now, he also felt guilty. He had spied on her, even after she had started trusting him more. Suddenly, he heard the door open. He quickly closed the screen. Nira stood at his door. She was holding a basket of fresh fruit, but her eyes were different, calm, but sharper than usual. You placed a watcher in the garden, she said simply. Tom stood up. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break your trust. I didn't understand, and I wanted to. She placed the basket down and looked at him. Some things are not meant to be seen with machines. The garden lives through feeling, not wires. Tom nodded slowly. I know. I deleted it. Nira walked to the window and looked outside. The garden was bright, full of life. She said nothing for a while. Then she spoke. I come from a race called the Velari, as you know. But what you don't know is that my kind were once hunted not for war or power, but for light. Tom sat down, listening carefully. Long ago, we helped many worlds grow. We healed lands, brought back rivers, taught the stars to rest gently in the sky. But some did not like what we were. Why? Tom asked. Because our light cannot be controlled. It does not follow orders. It listens only to kindness, to care. Those who wanted control over everything feared us. So they attacked you? Nira nodded. They burned forests, poisoned skies, and chased our kind across the stars. Many of us forgot who we were. We hid. We stopped singing to the rivers. We stopped trusting. Tom felt a heavy sadness in her words. He had never heard of such a thing before, being hunted for healing, for beauty. Why did you come here? He asked gently. Nira turned toward him. To see if humans are ready. To see if even one heart can protect what is gentle. Tom swallowed. I want to protect it. I want to protect you. She stepped forward and placed a glowing hand on his shoulder. Then keep my secret. Even if others ask. Even if they offer you power or praise, protect the silence of the garden. Tom nodded. I promise. From that day, something changed. Nira began to share more pieces of her world. She taught Tom how to place his hand on the ground and feel if the soil was sick or strong. She showed him how to breathe with the wind, how to hum the old songs that call butterflies, and how to close his eyes and feel the heartbeat of a tree. One evening, she placed a seed in Tom's hand. "This is not just a plant," she said. "It is a memory." Tom planted it in a pot. Days passed. It grew fast. Within a week, it became a small bush with silver leaves. The leaves moved even when there was no wind. "It listens to you now," Nira said. Tom touched the leaf gently. It curled toward his finger, like it knew him. But the peace did not last long. One day, a large ship arrived in the colony. It wasn't part of the Unity program. It carried the mark of the Zarn, a species known for strict rules and powerful machines. The ship landed quietly, but the colony leaders were not calm. They called emergency meetings and began checking the ID of every alien in the program. Tom and Nira stayed inside their house that evening. From the window, they saw officials walking from door to door. Tom looked at Nira. "Do you think they're here for you?" Nira closed her eyes. "They can smell the light, even when we hide it." Tom stood beside her. "I won't let them take you." She looked at him, her eyes full of stars. "You're only one human, Tom." He shook his head. "One human who made a promise." That night, Nira returned to the garden. She sang a soft song, no words, just a melody. The plants swayed. The air shimmered. A gentle wind passed through the leaves. Tom stood by the window, watching, and he whispered to himself, "They can bring ships. They can bring rules, but they'll never understand this kind of beauty." The next morning, the colony was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that came before something big. Soldiers from the Zarn ship were walking round the streets, wearing black and silver armor. They moved like machines, cold and alert, scanning every corner. Tom watched from the window, heart beating fast. Nira sat beside him, calm as always, her hands folded in her lap. "They're looking for someone," he said. "They are looking for light," Nira replied, her voice soft but clear. Tom turned to her. "You mean they're looking for you, aren't they?" Nira nodded slowly. Tom stood up and began pacing the room. "We need to do something. We can't just sit here and wait for them to knock on the door." "They will not find me unless I shine too bright," she said. "But I cannot hide forever." Tom clenched his fists. "Why are they so afraid of your kind?" Nira stood up and walked to the window. "Because we do not obey. We heal, but we do not take orders. We listen to the stars, not to machines. That scares them." Tom sat back down, his head full of thoughts. He knew Nira had powers. He had seen them with his own eyes. But now he understood something deeper. Her power wasn't just beauty or healing. It was freedom. And the Zarn didn't like things they couldn't control. That afternoon, the colony officials made an announcement. All residents must attend a security check tomorrow morning. All homes will be scanned for non-registered energy sources. This is for your safety. Tom felt his stomach turn. "They're going to scan the house?" Nira looked at him. "Then they will know I'm here." Tom shook his head. "We need a plan." That night, he went to the storage room and pulled out an old box of tools. He opened his tablet and studied the colony map. Then he did something bold. He messaged someone, Lana, his old friend from Earth, now a systems engineer in Mars Colony Control. "Lana, I need a favor. You owe me for fixing your station last month." "What kind of favor?" She replied, "I need a 10-minute delay in the scan signal for House 12. Just 10 minutes. "Tom, what are you hiding?" "Nothing dangerous. Just something important. Please." There was silence for a while. Then, "Fine, 10 minutes, no more. And you didn't get this from me." Tom smiled in relief. He turned to Nira. "We have a small chance. 10 minutes. Can you hide your energy during that time?" Nira nodded. "I will rest. The light will sleep for a little while." The next morning, Tom woke early. Nira was already sitting in the center of the room, eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. She looked like a statue made of silver and air. At exactly 9 o'clock, the Zarn scan team came down the street. They entered house after house, scanning walls and devices with long blue sticks. Their faces were like stone. Tom stood by the door, trying to look calm. They entered. The tall Zorn officers walked in. One nodded at Tom without a word. The other started scanning. Beep, beep, beep. They scanned the walls, the ceiling, the kitchen, when they passed by Nira, who was sitting with her head down and lay completely gone. The scanner stayed quiet. Tom held his breath. Finally, the officers left the house. One of them paused at the door. "You live alone?" he asked. Tom nodded. "Yes, alone." The officer stared at him for a moment, then left. Tom closed the door gently, his hands shaking. He turned around. Nira opened her eyes. Her skin shimmered just a little. "We made it," Tom whispered. But the danger wasn't over. Later that evening, a message came to Tom's tablet. It was from the colony office. "You are required to attend a questioning session tomorrow. Your activity logs show contact with a non-registered communication signal." Tom swallowed. He knew what it was. They had traced his message to Lana. He sat down and told Nira everything. "They're onto me now," he said. "You help me." Nira said softly, "Now let me help you." Tom looked up. "How?" She reached into her robe and took out something small. It looked like a seed, but it glowed like a star. "This is my memory, my truth. If they take you away, you must give this to someone who will listen, someone kind." Tom took the seed carefully. It felt warm, almost alive. "What will it show?" he asked. "The story of the Velari," Nira said. "Our light, our loss, our hope." Tom nodded and placed the seed in a small hidden pocket of his jacket. The next morning, Tom went to the colony building. The hall was large and empty, with metal walls and sharp lights. Zorn officers sat behind a glass screen. "You sent a private message during the lockdown." One of them said, double quotes, "Yes," Tom replied, "to ask for help." "I was scared." "Help for what?" Tom paused. Then he looked the officer in the eyes. "For my garden. I thought the skin might damage it." The officer didn't smile. "Do not joke." Tom stayed silent. After an hour, they let him go. No charges, just a warning. When he returned home, Nira was waiting with a calm face. "You were brave," she said. Tom smiled. "I didn't do it for bravery. I did it because I care." That night, the stars were clearer than ever. Tom sat in the garden beside Nira. "Is there anyone else like you left?" he asked. She nodded. "Few, hidden. But we are waiting." "For what?" Tom asked. "For a sign that the universe still has space for kindness." Tom looked at the glowing flower she had once grown for him. "Maybe that sign is already here." He said. The night after Tom's questioning, the air in the colony felt different. Quiet, but full of tension, like something was about to happen. Even the wind seemed to carry a warning. Nira stood by the garden, her eyes looking up at the moon above. The plants she had grown were glowing softly. They responded to her mood. Tonight, their light was faint. Tom joined her, still wearing the same jacket with the glowing seed hidden in its pocket. "They're watching me," he said. "There was a drone outside earlier. It hovered too long." "They know you are hiding something," Nira replied softly. "I think they'll come again. Not for a scan. This time, they'll take me," Tom said. Nira didn't answer right away. Then she turned to him. "Then we must leave before they come." Tom blinked. "Leave? Where can we go? This is the only place we're allowed to stay." Nira stepped closer. "There's a path, an old path. It was once used by the builders of this colony, now forgotten. But I remember." Tom looked unsure. "What if they find us? If we stay, they will find us. If we go, we might have a chance," Nira said. Tom nodded slowly. "Then we go." They packed quickly, only what they could carry in small bags. Nira took some seeds, her silver robe, and a small blue stone that pulsed faintly. Tom packed water, tools, a map, and the memory seed she had given him. At midnight, they left the house quietly. Tom turned back once to look at the garden, glowing softly in the dark. "Will it survive without you?" he asked. Nira smiled. "It will sleep, just like the stars sometimes do." They walked silently through the empty streets. Drones floated in the sky, but Nira held the blue stone close, and its light made them invisible to the machines. They reached the edge of the colony, a tall fence with metal sensors. But Nira walked straight to an old part of the wall. hidden behind a broken solar panel. She touched the wall, and it opened slightly with a hiss. Tom stared. "How did you—" "I was here long before I met you," she said gently. They slipped through the gap and into the wild land beyond. Outside the colony, the land was quiet but rough. Red dust covered the ground, and sharp rocks stretched far into the distance. The stars above looked brighter, more alive. Tom followed Nira as she moved with purpose. Her steps light but sure. She knew the way. Hours passed. They didn't speak much. Only the sound of the wind and their footsteps filled the night. Finally, just before sunrise, they reached a large rock shaped like a broken dome. Nira stopped and touched it. A hidden door opened, leading into the ground. Tom followed her down into the darkness. Inside, the air was cool. Soft lights lit up the walls, old lights, not human-made. They had entered a forgotten chamber, round, smooth, and quiet. "This is a Velari sanctuary," Nira said. "Long ago, we built places like this on many worlds. Hidden places, safe from war." Tom looked around in wonder. The walls had soft, glowing lines, like roots of light. In the center of the chamber was a large crystal, slowly turning. "This is beautiful," he whispered. Nira sat beside the crystal and placed her hands on it. It lit up brighter. A soft hum filled the chamber. Tom sat too. "What happens now?" Nira looked at him. "Now we wait. My people will feel the light. If any are left, they will come." Tom nodded slowly. "And the Zorn? They'll know we're gone. They'll follow." "They might," she said. "But they don't know this place. Not yet." Tom reached into his jacket and held the memory seed. It glowed faintly in his hand. "Can I see what's inside this?" he asked. Nira smiled. "You are ready." She guided his hand to the crystal and placed the seed inside it. The crystal pulsed. Suddenly, the chamber changed. Light filled the room, and images appeared all around them, floating in the air like dreams. Tom saw beautiful beings of light Velar moving through green worlds, planting stars, healing skies. He saw their homes floating above oceans. He saw children laughing, and then he saw darkness. Ships made of fire. The Zarn, burning forests, stealing light, chanting what they didn't understand. He saw Nira standing in front of a Zarn captain, refusing to kneel. And he saw her escape, running through stars, hiding among humans. The memory ended. Tom sat still, heart full, eyes wide. "You were a guardian," he said softly. "I was one of many," Nira replied. "But now, I might be the last." "No," Tom said. "You're not alone. Not anymore." A day passed in the chamber, then another. Tom and Nira shared stories. He told her about Earth, its oceans, cities, and chaos. She told him about the Velari sun gardens and how they could grow forests in a day with only light and a song. On the third day, the crystal pulsed twice. Nira stood up. "They heard me," she said. Tom looked around. "Your people? Yes, they are near." Hours later, a soft hum filled the cave. 3 figures appeared at the edge of the chamber. They wore silver cloaks like Nira and had the same glowing skin. Their eyes were deep and full of ancient light. One of them stepped forward and spoke. "Nira, light bearer, you are not forgotten." Nira bowed. "And you are not lost." The Velari embraced gently. It was silent but powerful. Tom stood quietly, watching. One of the Velari turned to him. "You are human?" The voice asked. "Yes," Tom said. "You helped her, protected her." "I couldn't let her be taken," he replied. The Velari looked at him with calm eyes. "Then your heart carries the light too." That night, the sanctuary glowed brighter than before. Nira and her people shared songs, soft, echoing sounds that made the walls shimmer. Tom sat in the corner, watching, listening. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt part of something bigger. Later, Nira sat beside him. "They will take me with them to a hidden world, to rebuild," she said. Tom's heart sank. "And me?" Nira placed her hand on his. "There's a path for you too, if you choose it." The morning light filtered softly through the glowing walls of the Velari sanctuary. Tom sat quietly, watching Nira and the others prepare to leave. The air was filled with a peaceful energy, yet there was a quiet sadness too. Nira looked at him. her silver eyes shining. The time has come. Tom swallowed hard. I don't want to say goodbye. She smiled gently. Goodbye is just a word. We carry each other in light, no matter where we go. Tom nodded, but his heart ached. The other Valari gathered their things, small glowing seeds, soft robes, and crystal stones that pulsed with energy. They spoke quietly among themselves, their voices like wind in the trees. Nira turned to Tom. There is a choice for you. Tom blinked. A choice, yes. You may stay here and live your life as before, or you may come with us to learn, to grow, to help rebuild what was lost. Tom's mind raced. To leave Mars, to leave everything he knew. It was a big decision. Why me? He asked. Nira stepped closer. Because your heart is open. Because you see the light when others close their eyes. Tom looked around at the glowing plants, the soft hum of the sanctuary, and the peaceful faces of the Valari. I want to learn, he said at last. Nira smiled, her face radiant. Then we will begin. Over the next days, Tom learned things he never imagined. He learned to listen to the language of plants, the way they whispered to each other through the soil. He learned to sing the old songs that called light to grow and shadows to rest. He felt his own heart change, growing softer, stronger. One morning, Nira led him outside the sanctuary for the first time. The world beyond was rough and dusty, but under Nira's touch, the ground began to bloom. Flowers burst open, leaves grew on bare branches, and the air filled with fresh scents. Tom smiled wide. It's magic. Nira laughed softly. It is light, it is care, it is life. Together, they traveled to places long forgotten by the colony. Ruined forests, cracked rivers, and silent skies. At each place, Nira touched the earth, and the light of the Valari healed what was broken. Tom watched in awe. He felt proud to help. One night, under the endless stars, Tom asked Nira about her. People, are there many of you left? Few, she said. But light is never gone. It hides, it waits. Do you think humans will understand? Nira looked at him with hope. Some will, some already do. Tom thought about the colony, the Zarn, the fear of the unknown. I want to help them understand. Nira nodded. Then you were ready. Time passed. The sanctuary became a home. The Valari shared their knowledge with Tom, and he taught them about humans and their struggles. One day, a message arrived from the colony. It was an invitation and offer of peace and cooperation. The leaders wanted to learn about the Valari and their light. Tom and Nira looked at each other, smiling. The future was uncertain, but hope was shining, brighter than ever. Before she left with her people, Nira took Tom's hands in hers. You carry the light now, she said. Tom felt warmth spread through him. Promise me you will keep it alive. I promise. Nira smiled, her eyes soft. With trust. With a final glow, she stepped into the crystal chamber. The light wrapped around her like a gentle wave, and then she was gone. Tom stood alone, but not lonely. He looked at the stars and whispered, Thank you, Nira, for everything. Weeks later, Tom returned to the colony. He spoke to the leaders and shared the story of the Valari, their light, their peace, and their hope. At first, many were afraid, but slowly, hearts began to open. Tom planted the seeds Nira had given him around the colony. Flowers bloomed in the dry Martian soil. The colony changed, and Tom knew that this was just the beginning. The light was alive. And so was hope. The end.